Only once in your life that you get to make your first film, you know. So if it's your first film and it's the only time you'll ever do it in your life, you may as well do it like you want to do it, not like somebody else wants to do it. One of the problems with Handmade have made a lot of the kind of comedies that I actually can't stand, and don't say that in a particularly pejorative way, but I hate jokes, you know. Humour to me has to be based on the reality, no matter how absurd and all the rest of it. And Handmade were very much into sort of joke type of movies. At its very best, Life of Brian, fantastic, you know, but it isn't my kind of thing. And I think that Dennis had a lot of trouble actually understanding why it was funny. He thought it was probably generally shit, you know.
It is the most shattering experience of a young man's life when one morning he awakes and quite reasonably says to himself, I will never play the Dane.
Dennis, for example, wanted Uncle Monty to be a real, you know, sort of hinged wrist job, which firstly I find insulting to homosexuals, and secondly I don't find it funny. You know, it's like, are you being served? We've all seen that character. What makes Uncle Monty funny is his reality. The fact that he is, you know, one of the lads and all of that. And so I had all sorts of difficulties with Dennis. On the first day, literally hardly started shooting the bloody thing and he's up there crowing about what's wrong with it, you know, and I wanted it to be very dark, the movie, you know. These guys are in a cottage that hasn't been lit with anything other than oil lamps for the last 50 years. It's the middle of the night with a storm going on. And they want sort of, you know, 5K lamps all over the room and stuff, you know, and so when Dennis came up the first or second day, he hated the material, he hated the darkness. So I just said, oh, well, fuck it then, you know, where's the bus stop? I'm gone. You can either cancel it or do it yourself or get any others. Do what you want with it. And I really would have gone too. That was like the first couple of days. They all shat themselves. I mean, here we are up there. Richard had barely had a career. Suddenly he's got a, you know, albeit a bit of a tiny sort of outfit, but nevertheless he's got a lead in the movie. On day two he thinks the whole thing's going to get shut down, you know, so they were all freaking out up there. I did, you know, genuinely, it's very weird, isn't it? I didn't give a bugger whether they shut it down or not. I mean, when I said to them, I will walk, I really did mean it. I would have done. Just like that, I'd have gone, you know, because that's how I felt about it. I felt an extreme confidence with this thing, because I'd actually lived this thing, you know, it was part of my life. I didn't want somebody else telling me what my life was like, you know. I knew how it should be, and so I knew how it should be better than anybody else alive, so I just wasn't going to listen. The upshot was that I didn't resign, and they completely thought that they got a lemon, lost interest, buggered off and left me alone, which is why I think the film works well, you know, I say facetiously. Because it's so, if you are hopefully trying to be a creative artiste, like I'm over there in my writing room every day writing this bloody bitch of a book that's been going on 6 years. I can't do it with somebody in my ear all the time saying, oh, are you sure it should be like that, you know? And the apogee of that horror, you know, which we won't get into here, but happened with me in LA when I made the biggest error of my life, and that's trying to make a film in a film studio. And I had hundreds of people telling me how I should be doing it all the time. And if you're in an environment like that, you know, you have to listen to them because that it is their environment. But if you're up a hill, like we were Withnail with cow shit all over the place, you know, you either do listen or you don't. And I wasn't going to listen there. So they all buggered off. The night before we were due to start shooting, I'm sitting down in the bar in this sort of hotel in Penrith with a bottle of vodka, 3 a.m, smoking myself silly, drinking myself daft to try and get arsehole so I could go to sleep or anything, or escape somehow, navigate this fear that was coursing through my veins. with this and drinking this vodka, and I couldn't get drunk. I couldn't get anything out of it. And David Wimbury, my old pal David, came in, sat down with me in this empty bar and had a couple of glasses, and he said something to me that is so true about the film industry. He said, the thing is, Bruce, it doesn't matter how good your script is, how good your actors are, how good you may or may not be as a director, how good the weather's going to be. If you haven't got luck, you're fucked. It doesn't matter. Without the luck, you're fucked if you're making a movie. Now, I've made a film without luck, and I was fucked. And the thing about Withnail is that we had luck. You know, all of these ingredients, the O'Brien and all the rest of it, whatever it was, Withnail had luck. And that's why the film worked. You know, I mean, can you imagine how obscenely horrible the potentiality is in a film like Withnail not to work if it didn't work? You know, god damn, I mean, if I was lucky, I found those fabulous actors, I had a fabulous casting director, I had fabulous crew, I had fabulous weather, I was just lucky, you know, and the symbiosis between me and all of those elements worked in the right way. So I'm going to go back and direct something else for the first time in 12 years, and I hope I've got luck, because if I haven't got luck, I'm fucked. If he laughed, I always cut and shot it again because I thought there was something wrong with it. What I thought was wrong with it was that the essence of this movie and the essence of these two guys, and Monty and everybody else, and Danny the dealer, they don't know they're funny. That's the important part, the most vital ingredient in this piece of comedy, I think. They just have no idea that they're funny. And it's rather like, I mean, I've sometimes sat in pubs when I used to booze, and you hear these old bastards writing dialogue at the pub, talking dialogue, as good as anything Pinter could, and I love Harold Pinter, or Beckett. It is absolutely phenomenal and so funny. But if you told them it was funny, or gave it to them, copied it down and gave it back and said, do it again, they couldn't do it, firstly because they're not actors, and the moment they knew that it was funny, they fuck it up and it wouldn't be funny anymore. So I didn't want the slightest edge of awareness of what I believed was going to be a very funny film to be on the set. And I tried very hard not to laugh myself. I only did laugh once when Grant got that piece of pastry trapped in his teeth, and he's sort of grinning when the wanker's going to come and waste him in the shower. And I mean, you couldn't have written it in, you couldn't have rehearsed it, you couldn't have got it. And we were shooting the thing and he opened his mouth and I saw that piece of fucking pastry in there. It absolutely creased me. I mean, I wonder if he really knew why Withnail and I was Withnail. I wonder if he actually even understood it as a concept sometimes, you know. Because it's not, Withnail and I, obviously it's a heavy dialogue movie, but it isn't about moving on. Oh, let's cut that and get to the chariots, because there aren't any chariots. That's what it is. It's people yakking at each other. And it has nothing to move on to. So, you know, if you cut Danny the dealer, well, yes, you may as well cut Uncle Monty too. In fact, you may as well cut everything and just have him in the flat and just keep him in there and make it a 10-minute short, you know. He also wanted to cut the bull, and I like the bull. I have a real fear of bulls. I have a fear of animals actually. I've got a fear of cows too. I used to have this recurring dream. You're obviously going to cut this, but anyway, I used to have this dream that there would be a rhinoceros trying to get in the window at night, and we used to have these security gates on our house in London, and I would see this fucking rhino. It was white and all gooey like a huge fetus with its sort of white horn wobbling around. And the rhino always wanted to come in, and that was my feeling I had about, in fact, why the bull's in there, because I have this real fear of animals, and people talk about going out to Africa to see lions and elephants. I mean, there is no way under the sun that I could do that. I couldn't. I can't even look at them in a zoo, because I think somehow they're going to leap up over the trench and and come and stomp me, you know. So the bull for me, for that reason, about the paranoia, was a very important scene, you know. This is probably a load of bollocks. I'm completely running away with this cortisone. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I'm making time.
In respect of the driving back to London, for example, which Handmaid wanted to cut. They wanted to cut them from the countryside, arriving back in the flat, which would mean that the whole of the establishment stuff with the car going out was a waste of time. You know, what's the point of Danny the dealer saying, oh, you can have that, you know, that's my invention, that, and all of that kind of shit, you know, the device, without paying it off. So Handmaid is saying, we're not going to pay for it. So I had to pay for it. And I think it cost about, it did in fact cost £30,000 that was taken out of, I got £70,000 for directing Withnail and I, and 30,000 was withheld to shoot the car scene. It puts me in a state of extreme anger that anyone could be so bloody cheap, you know. I mean, why? Over 30 grand. Yeah, it's absurd. It's one of the you know, I'm immensely fond of Withnail and I, but one of the reasons I don't really like having a lot to do with it is because I'm so angry with the people who own it, you know. I'd had, which is quite well known to anyone who is interested in Withnail and I, I'd had the most appalling experience in London because the publicity people had put on a screening with about 200 kids, young kids in this screening, and I'm at the back, and this is a fucking comedy, right? Not laugh one. Half an hour in, nothing. Total silence. And I'm becoming hysterical now, you know. What's going on here? Surely something's funny, isn't it? You know, nothing. And then I heard, oh, wie geht's, mein Geil, or something like that. I don't speak German. I don't mean to be rude about what German's like. Wait a minute, what the fuck's all this? And the whole audience had been recruited from German students, not one of whom could speak a word of English, who were over in England to learn English. And now they're all shoved in here. I've only ever fired 2 people in my life, and those publicists were one of them. Because what a terrible thing to do. I honestly, I was levitating with anxiety at the back. So this dreadful experience of having these German people watch the film, a week later we're in New York for a screening, and here they all come in, and lots of Americans, harsh audience, and does comedy travel? I don't know, you know, I had no idea. And so we put the film up and they start laughing. Not immediately, about 10 minutes in, they start sort of that sense of, oh, this is a funny film, you know. Is it funny? Yeah, but now they're laughing. And there were 2 girls in front of me. By about 35 minutes in, they were standing up to laugh, hanging over their seat in front of them. I thought they were going to choke to death, and it was the best noise I've ever heard, you know. I'm staring at their asses as they're rolling on these seats. And the whole theatre was screeching with laughter. So that was one of the best experiences of my life, because that's what we were all about. That's what we did it for, you know, just to make people laugh. Why are you going to introduce Dennis now like something out of This Is Your Fucking Life or something? Is he? And here he comes. He looks just like Bilko. You know, remember Sergeant Bilko? He's, I don't know. I don't think about Dennis much.